There are many racetracks with nicknames out there, but to earn the title of the Temple of Speed, you certainly need to be exceptional. Monza has surely justified that moniker. With few corners and eye-wateringly long straights, our drivers will discover it looks simple, but is deceptively tricky to master. Let's see who can as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, along with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Monza celebrates its 100th birthday this year. Why don't we head down to our track guide to find out a bit more about its lengthy history? Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, DJ, as I said, there isn't a lot to this place, and yet somehow it remains one of the greatest challenges in racing.
It really does, Joe, and that really is because there are so few braking zones on this circuit that you have to be absolutely pixel perfect to get them right. From the very, very tight right-left of the first chicane all the way into the little bit more flowing part of the second chicane. The Lesmo's always willing to catch you out. That grass and gravel right on the exit of the first Lesmo. Very, very inviting to be able to get the car to run a little bit wide to there. And then coming out of the second Lesmo, you have to maximize your speed as much as possible, carry as much speed as you can to be able to make the long run down into the Variante Ascari. Now, that is an incredibly tricky corner to be able to get right. You've got to brake just a little bit and then carry speed around and then watch for multiple different lines to come through coming out of Parabolica and the many different ways to be able to take it. But the one thing that is going to be true across any portion of this track tonight, it is going to be about the draft, the whole draft, and nothing but the draft.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Rachel, honestly, it kind of makes me wonder what the racing is going to wind up looking like, because if they manage to keep together and avoid, the melees that are notorious here in that first chicane, will we see some large draft trains, and what's that going to do to people's strategy?
Well, it's going to change the fuel strategy for sure, because drafting means you can save fuel as long as you're not the lead car. So maybe we'll see people working together in groups for that benefit and swapping out that lead, because you can extend your fuel window, obviously, a lot more. Now, this will be a different track to Knock Hill. The off-throttle time at Knock Hill in lap percentage time is much higher due to the number of corners, switchbacks. You're spending much, much more time off the gas turning. At Monza, your on-gas percentage for the lap is much higher. So you will be full throttle a lot more here, which means you will burn more fuel. So drafting will be important to try and extend that window and give yourself some strategy. Now, this is one of those tracks where if you're in a group, you won't want to necessarily pit. If you lose the draft, you may want to pit and come out in traffic. It's going to be a bit of a flip on its head compared to the rest of the season. This is basically the Daytona of road courses.
Indeed, that's a really good comparison on this. And right now, as we saw Sachs come across the line, looks like that lap did not count for him. Easy to have those off tracks with this being a modern Grand Prix course with quite a bit of paved runoff in some areas. So he's going to cycle back around, but Mark Lacombe is currently on the provisional pole. And we look at Thomas Briggs, who managed a sixth place run on that first lap. Now they get 3 laps to try and set their quickest time. And we'll see who is the fastest. But it is solo qualifying, so they can't use the slipstream for that, DJ. Even still, track position versus not having track position. How does that work in this situation?
Well, I think, Joe, you're going to want to be up towards about the top half of the field. You really don't want to be pulled back down into the lower half of the field because, especially on the first couple of laps, because of how tight these corners are, we can unfortunately see some stack ups. And so a lot of times, just like Rachel said, how this is a little bit like a super speedway race, you don't want to be caught back in those positions. You don't want to run the risk of having a big accident fly off in front of you. And you don't want to lose touch with the drivers in front. So I think if you can qualify in about the first half of the field, you're going to be good to go.
So we watch Briggs down into Ascari. Let's see if he can keep off those tall sausage curbs, and looks like he's good so far. So all he has to do is keep it clean coming around Parabolica, and then he'll finish his second lap. Iwata went quicker last time by. A 51.4 was good enough for third. That said, that's 9/10 off of our current pole time. So Mark Lacombe is mighty quick today. He did not go faster on his second one. Briggs is coming around and is on a much faster lap this time by, let's see, as he crosses the line, a 50.5 is up to third. That looks much more competitive, Rachel.
Yeah, that's looking like a much quicker time, and our window here for that 1 second is tiny. 150.080 is our pole. A 51 comparatively is a 0.23 is fourth. That is 4 spots in a second. This is where every millisecond you get in those corners will be a huge factor, because everyone's equally fast when you put the gas to the floor on a straight.
Absolutely, and it is fixed setup as well, so nobody can find any sort of tricks trying to lower the downforce around here. Uriadka is just crossing the line at 52.3. And that doesn't look like it'll bump him up, unfortunately, even though he improved by a few tenths. Last week's winner, Chad Dick, now goes onto the front row. He finally broke that duck in Series 8, DJ. I wonder if he can repeat here today.
Well, he's certainly got a good chance to. He is a single thousandth of a second off of Mark Lacombe. So very, very good run there for the Connecticut Valley region driver. Looks like he kicked up a little bit of dust coming out of the first chicane there, but he'll still have a little bit of time to try to get some more laps down, maybe beat that 10th of a second.
Yeah, and indeed, that win last time out put him mighty close to Mark Lacombe in the championship points. Very much in the hunt now. And I'm sure he'd like to try and take a few more points out of that to position himself in the final race, as we watch him now fly through the Lesmos. The only 2 corners other than the Parabolica that isn't a chicane. And that one looked pretty decent for him, although it does look like he's a little slow compared to his quickest lap. We're coming down to the last couple minutes here of our qualifying. So the drivers hopefully will be able to complete these laps soon. I'm looking through, Rachel, and I do see a couple that still don't have that last one done.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And Briggs up to P1 here with a 49.975, breaking that 150 barrier. Our new pole sitter there. Huge run by him. That is, wow, just actually over hundreds of a second, faster. That's a big jump in Monza.
Great stuff there from the 4 car, but let's see what Chad Dick has. The 930 comes to the start-finish line, or at least the timing line, rather, and it does not count. He had an off track somewhere. So third is the best he will see, but as we mentioned, the track position not as critical as we saw at Knock Hill. Casey on in 8th position, also unable to go any faster last time by, and Andrew McCune, who is in 16th out of only 19 cars here today. Rather small field for today's event. And McCune has a lot of ground to make up, about 3.7 seconds off the pole, but it's going to stay those 3.7 seconds, DJ. He does not go faster.
No, he does not. Waiting for the last couple of drivers to get their laps down. I'm not sure who's going to be able to have it here. But yeah, Joe, as you said, track position not as important, but you definitely want to try to get as close to the front as possible to at least stay in that leading draft train.
Yeah, Benson's the only one that can take a lap. No, actually, I retract that. He has already taken his 3. It was his first one that was deleted. So indeed, our grid is set. And as we mentioned, Thomas Briggs is on the pole. Mark Lacombe will start from second, and it's Chad Dick in P3. After that, Scott Kessel is 4th, and Mike Sachs will start from P5. Outside of that row is Steve Komatz. John Gibson will be 7th, Chad Casey on 8th, and then row 5 is Iwata and Reber.
Behind them in 11th, it's going to be Randy Lervold, followed by Stefan Aradko, with Robert Benson and Jeremy Lawrence behind them. Johan Nye will be 15th, followed by Andrew McCune, with Freddie Lopez, Jack Stevenson, and Jeff Lashaway rounding out your 19-car field.
I am eagerly watching to see how this start will go. We just about have everybody out there. This first turn, this first chicane, Retafilo, is notorious for drivers piling into one another accidentally because it narrows up greatly and it goes from high speeds down to a very, very slow right-left. Looks like everybody is out there. So now the engines will start to rev as the lights come up for race 7 in the PCA Sim Racing Series. And the green flag is out. Lacombe is not as good off the line as Briggs is, and it looks like Chad Dick might be able to sneak up closer around the outside, but he starts to fade in the second phase. Early braking for Mike Sachs. He does not want to get involved in any sort of tussle here. Oh, speaking of which, almost contact between Briggs as Lacombe swings around the outside, DJ, and takes the lead.
And Briggs just completely missed his braking zone. We've got a car around in the back. That's Robert Benson, but Briggs just missed his braking zone, went way too deep into the chicane, had to gather it all back up under him, and that has allowed for Mark Lacombe to be able to get on by.
And strangely, that was a single car incident. That was Benson spinning it, taking too much sausage curb at the second apex. So only one to fall victim. Glad to see everybody with their heads up, but it is the second chicane that winds up biting them, Rachel.
Yeah, it does a little bit there, unfortunately. That was a terrible moment for that to happen, but hey, it seemed to be one of those little one-car moments again that caused that, but just not the right timing. These chicanes on cold tires are going to be interesting. That was Randy Lervold, I believe, in the second chicane there. He gets dropped back quite away here at the moment, but overall, we've been somehow really clean for this first lap.
Still one more chicane to go here, and this time it is Lacombe who goes a little deep. Briggs can't seem to capitalize. Watching the rest of the field to see if anybody has issues. Oh, there's one right there, and that is Stacy Iwata just getting a little nudge to the side. I think that was a touch from Ariadka, but otherwise, oh, we got a change for the lead. Up at the front, Lacombe and Briggs, with Lacombe playing defense around the outside, DJ, and I think he's going to be able to hold it.
He is indeed able to carry more momentum around the outside there at Parabolica, and I have to say for Thomas Briggs, I don't like that move. I would have waited a little bit more, tried to back up Parabolica and get the move here onto the front straight. It looks like he's going to have a pretty good pull, but still, you don't want to be over-eager.
He's got the inside, and as they break down into Retafilo, it looks like he's going to be able to overtake Lacombe. So back to first for Briggs. Chad Dick is still in third, and somebody goes wide. That is John Gibson, who has now been another victim of these very difficult chicanes, Rachel.
Yeah, the chicanes will always bite you here at Monza. It's not the straights, of course, but it will do that every single time. Every single race, I've seen the pros make mistakes in these chicanes, and these curbs are humongous. Do not let them fool you by their appearance. They are monsters.
Yeah, something I doubt they'll want to try and clatter over, especially in these Porsches, not wanting to get them bouncing around. I'm a bit surprised, DJ, that Briggs took that lead back. I kind of thought, well, he's close behind Mark. Maybe this is a good chance for him to just sit back there and wait and save fuel.
I am too, Joe, but I think what's going on under the helmet of Briggs right now is his blood may be up a little bit. Remember, he made that mistake going into the first corner, and sometimes when that happens, you just sort of want to reassert your dominance back on the field. And I think for him, he's trying to see if he can pull away here a little bit from Lacombe.
Yeah, just could not handle not being in the lead, knowing he had that clear track in front of him. But they have spread apart pretty significantly here at this early stage of the race. You can see the gaps. This is not typical for this track, even with these GT Cup cars. And looks like Chad Dick, who we ride on board with, has about half a second to make up here. Rachel, let's see how much that's worth.
Could be a lot, but I think he'll have a good chance to make up some of that here with the draft being so big here as Dick pulls up towards the back of Lacombe. And this first chicane's a huge braking zone, but we'll see big suck up, of course. There is an opportunity to pass out of Parabolica, the final corner, if you get a great run. You could also end up side by side heading into turn one, which can have its own issues.
Indeed, and nobody was side by side this time into there. They all stayed single file. So they'll carry on around Curva Grande and towards the braking of De La Roja. This is Lawrence trying to attack on McCune, but too far back. Oh, but he does shake McCune into a mistake. Goes deep into the corner. He'll hold on to the position. They all stay as they are, DJ.
Yeah, they do indeed, and sometimes that's what you can happen. When you push a little bit too hard, you make your mistake yourself, but you still make the other opponent, your opponent, make a mistake as well. Back up front here, it continues to be Briggs, Lacombe, Dick, and Scott Kessel holding on to the back of this as well, and they've got about a 3-second breakaway back to Steve Komatz, and that is pretty crucial.
Yeah, I think that's going to be difficult for the 210 to try and climb that hill. And up into Ascari once again. This is the fastest of the 3 chicanes around the track. That could be a problem as we see him come out of there and down towards the Parabolica. Still nobody able to earn much advantage, it seems, in these early stages, Rachel.
Yeah, nobody is. It's really going to be a tricky one. This will be built up over the length of the race once the draft starts to really become a major factor. Early on here, that I thought we might see a little bit more passing, but I think I was a little bit cautious like last week, and also the fact that they know it's a tricky start here, tricky on cold tyres in general around the lap. But, well, we'll have to see what they can do. Right now, I think there's been a big speed difference throughout our pack. Looking at our qualifying times, it has been a significant difference. Yeah,
that's a good point. We did see some wide variety in there amongst them as we hop on board with Reber. And he's got a very good toe, DJ. This is honestly the closest we've seen since about the first or second lap, and he's going to take a look at it.
He is indeed. He's going to have to be later on the brakes here to try to make that work. Going side by side down into the corner with Stefan Radka, and a little bit tentative there. You can already see the damage on the front of Reber's machine. I think he doesn't want to put himself into any more problems.
So easy to make that nose-to-tail contact. Ooh, and a lot of curb there. From our leader, as Lacombe is going to try and see if he can take advantage of that. Down into the apex, through the first Lesmo, tracking out as wide as they dare, and then through the second one as well, scaring him just off of that curb. That's going to get him right up underneath him. This could be his best shot since lap 2 here, Rachel.
Yeah, it really could be a great shot for it, and it's side by side there, running down towards the Ascari. There we go, Ascari. I remember my track names here. It's so close. These guys are really putting it to the metal.
Not quite able to get it back yet. So Briggs is going to have to try again, but clearly wants that lead position. Not just content to sit behind and save fuel. If they keep battling like this, I wonder if Chad Dick will start to come into play.
You read my mind there, Joe. When they exited out of the second Lesmo, they had about a second gap back to Chad Dick, but that side-by-side battling a little bit offline through Ascari, that has allowed for Chad to be able to close back up and get that down to 0.4 of a second. That is not what you want to have happen. He's going to be getting the double draft down the straightaway here as we've got some lap traffic, somebody coming in and out of the pits. I believe that is Benson.
I think that's McCune. Yeah, that's the 13. Who had a monstrous hit with the wall. I think that was out of Ascari last lap, so he's just basically trying to recover and do what he can with this race. And instead of Dick catching up with Lacombe, it is Scott Kessel who made big inroads. He is now just haunting the rear of that number 930 out of Curva Grande into De La Roja. Let's see who gets the better run out of it, though, Rachel.
It's going to be a tight one here, but I think he'll stay in position for now as they're going to keep themselves running through here. And as they come, is not going to be close enough at all. I don't think there's really potential yet through the Lesmos. Now, your opportunity will be either through Ascari or out towards Parabolica and then beyond.
So for some reason, Randy Lervold is now in the pits as well to try and get some information as to what caused that early stop. It's definitely too early for a scheduled stop, so I doubt this is him trying to play an alternate strategy. Meanwhile, this is getting a little bit closer there out of Ascari, DJ. I think Lacombe might be trying to size him up again.
Yeah, I think he will as well. Now, is he going to take a leaf out of Briggs's book and try to make that pass before they go into Parabolica? He's going to poke his nose out, going to think better of it, come back into line. Let's see if that hurt him a little bit, if that's going to put him off line through this sweeping right-hander. He's going to be about 3.5 tenths of a second gap, but here comes the draft.
Got a black flag for Jack Stevenson, rather. And he is going to have to serve that. But Lacombe lifts way before the braking zone. And there's the first indication we've seen, Rachel, that somebody's trying to think forward.
Yeah, saving fuel, staying in the draft, makes them both faster, gives him a saving fuel time thing, which means he can later on pit later maybe. So it's just a huge advantage just to run in line right now. It's so early, there's no point to pass.
Yeah, I think that's what Mark's starting to discover at this stage of the race. Chad Dick behind them, trying to hold on. At times, he seems like he's fast enough to catch them, and then he suddenly drops off a few tenths, DJ. I'm not sure what's going on with the pace of the 930.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, Joe. I think it may just be an increase in fuel saving. I mean, it does seem to come that he's able to get closer whenever Briggs and Lacombe start to battle. I think he's just holding back here a little bit. I would normally say he's trying to save his tires necessarily, but it's only 73 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now, so it's not like he has to really worry about burning up that rubber.
Yeah, it's still about 9:30 virtual standard time, so certainly not a very hot track here today in Italy. As they bound over those tall sausage curbs at the apexes. Oof, and looks like Chad Dick is not afraid of them, Rachel. I feel like he's got to watch out, though. I've seen so many drivers find themselves spinning off just when they hit them the wrong way.
Yeah, he really should be, because he will get caught out by these curbs. And they may seem predictable, but they are really not.
And I can give an update on Stacey Iwata that he had an off actually going over those curbs through Della Rosa. He's back rolling in 13th position. And here we go again, down the front stretch. Briggs over Lacombe, Dick over Kessel. But Kessel lost quite a bit of ground on that one. And another car coming out from the pits. That's Jack Stevenson, I believe, after his penalty. And dutifully, he's going to let all four of our top drivers just go on by.
Yeah, a little bit of an internet blink there for Mark Lacombe. That is not what he wants to be seeing at all. Little bit of a narrower line there coming through the Curva Grande. You can do that if you want to. There's a couple of different approaches there, carrying momentum, shortest point from A to B, but one way or the other, both drivers ending up into Della Rosa pretty much where they started it. But Lacombe looking very, very aggressive here. He is definitely on the back of Briggs.
Wow, the 19 loves going through Della Rosa apparently, because that was much quicker than the 4. And you can see how much he's filling up the mirrors of that number 4 machine now. Off of the second Lesmo, not quite as strong. He drops back once again. It's a bit of a game of cat and mouse today, it seems, Rachel.
Yeah, cat and mouse with a mouse as a shotgun. No, you know he's working for it. He really is. The cat is trying to chase him, but yeah, watch out, because that mouse will rack in a double-up buck and go to town if he isn't careful. You got to pick your prey, and in this case, the prey is definitely not defenseless.
Yeah, so Thomas Briggs, who started from the pole, lost the lead temporarily, back into it now, has since been controlling this race. Lacombe has taken a couple looks, but then has recently started to look a little bit less interested and just kind of riding behind and sitting in position. And once again, he gets a very good run along the pit straight. Another blink from Mark as well. That internet connection And he's been given a connection warning as well. That is horrible news for him, DJ. If he gets another call from the stewards about that, they're going to send him down pit lane.
Yeah, that is not good at all, and that was a big checkup, a driving mistake there coming out of the first chicane. You saw just how much he checked up, and that really forced Chad Dick to fall behind him. The gap between Lacombe and Briggs now up to about 0.4 of a second. He'll be able to gain that down, but he's got to be very, very careful.
So we watch from Chad Dick. He would love to see the internet connection blink again and have Mark Lacombe out of his way. That's assuming, though, he could keep up with Briggs. That could be a whole nother story if he doesn't have the pace for the number 4 machine. And, did we have a problem with Johan Nye? Or no, it was with Jonathan Reber and Stefan Uriadka into the first chicane. Both of them had an off through there. Not sure what exactly caused that.
Not quite sure myself. Could have been one of the curbs. Hard to say at this point. We'll have to look. But right now, this grouping is staying really close together. This is something I'm keeping an eye on here because Briggs and Lacombe are on top of each other. Chad Dick is right there as well. The gap to Kessel has opened a little bit, but it's still there. Then you have a wider gap back to Comas. This is the draft effect. It's 8 seconds between that top 4 and 5th.
Yeah, we've tried to take a few other looks at some of the battles, but this has been one of the closest ones on track for much of the race, other than a few drivers having issues and slip-ups down through the field, giving up positions. I think Mark's going to have a good chance to get right up on him. Will he go for the attack? Yes, he does. So a change of heart for the number 19. Looks like his internet connection has solidified too, thankfully, so he is going to be able to keep battling away, but looks like DJ, he didn't actually try and outbrake him this time, but he certainly kind of moved himself to the inside briefly.
Yeah, and this is where that mental game that we love to talk about starts to play in. It's so easy to lock up the front tires going down into the first corner that sometimes if you just move out to the inside, ooh, a couple of more internet blinks there. That is not good for Lacombe, and that's a mistake for Briggs.
Briggs went completely through the chicane. He gets an automatic slowdown penalty from iRacing for that. Lacombe is now up to the front. Chad Dick can't get by, though. Briggs remains in second place. A bit of a breakaway now by 0.8 of a second. But will the stewards send the 19 into pit lane because of his internet here, Rachel?
They could. That would be terrible for Lacombe. I don't think it's bad, but it's not ideal. No, but if I was the steward, I'd say let him race right now because it hasn't been in any of the really tricky spots. It's just occasional, but it's their rules, of course. They decide how this goes. I think it would be a let him race unless it starts to get silly. It's not like he's in Australia. That would be fun.
Yeah, it's definitely better than some connections I've seen in the past. It's been very, very sparse blinks. But enough talk about that. This battle has been fascinating in and of itself, and so is this one as well, between Dick and Kessel. Hopefully they don't lose touch here because I'd love it to remain this 4-car fight. Granted, DJ, I'm sure Mark Lacombe does not want it to stay a 4-car fight.
No, he would very much like to break away at this as much as possible, but this is one of the better runs that we've seen Briggs have. He's going to poke his nose to the inside, tries to go later on the brakes, does Thomas Briggs, gets it woed up for the corner, and that's going to be a pass into the lead.
So twice now he's had to try and retake that top spot, and twice he's done it at the Redifilo chicane. So at what point will Mark maybe try and cover that one off if he does get back into the lead? As I think we had Stefan Uriadka into the wall. Into Parabolica. Looks like the 951 has made contact with the tire barrier. So unfortunately, that might force him into the pits a little bit early. Still only 0.2 of a second between the 4 and the 19. Does Lacombe want to have another go here? Let's see out of the second Lesmo, Rachel. This is usually a good spot to try and set it up.
It is a great chance to set it up, and he has a bit of a head of steam on him here, so he's looking like a defensive line we're seeing. But it's still not going to be close enough. This could be something we see set up through Ascari, so we'll keep our eyes on this as we come down under the Brembo Bridge. Heading to braking zone now. Normal line, not particularly looking defensive. I don't think he's close enough. This draft might be enough, but just not yet. At least keep it in position he does. Good run out the corner. We're seeing a look here. Will that look translate to anything? It's going to be tough to say. They're heading down here into Parabolica, my favourite corner on this track, just because of its name. Especially when a Finn says it, trust me. Wait, it's great. Parabolica. Yeah, he knows what I mean.
Yep. I've heard that discussion from you before. And, well, ironically, they've officially changed it. It is now called Michele Alboreto, but
No, bad.
I know. To me, it will always be Parabolica. It's too ingrained, but there's another good run from Lacombe. But once again, he chooses not to take it. And I tell you what, this battle, DJ, has really kept us entranced because we're almost halfway through this thing. This has been a fast race.
Yeah, it really and truly has, flying by both in speed and in time, just really moving its way along here. And I've been keeping an eye on Chad Dick in the back, and that gap just continues to grow and expand and then shrink down again. It's very interesting. I'm kind of starting to think here that Chad Dick may have a little bit of an upper hand, that he's doing some mega fuel saving and may be able to overcut these guys a little bit.
Absolutely. Also, Komatz still has a battle with Mike Sachs there for 5th place. So we've got these top 4, and then it's a duo behind them. And from there, it is a lot of single cars just run along. Here's from on board Mike Sachs, who is down 1, and Komatz is up 1. So I'm sure he'll want to try and reverse that to at least get back to where he started, Rachel.
Yeah, he absolutely will, and it's going to be, I think, a few laps before you can see him do that. I just don't think it's in the cards at the moment with the gap the way it is and the speed difference not being so huge. These guys have really got this place dialed in. I think if we look at the actual running order of the race, we've got some standouts here. Lashway is up 11 places from 19th to 8th. That is incredible, especially at Monza. That is ridiculous. We have another outlier, Johan Nye, who's up 5. But in general, people are typically, at least in the first half of the field, where they qualified or about that. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th are all in the same order. 5th is down 1, or 6th, sorry, is down 1. 7th is down 1. And then we've got a couple of outliers from incidents and things, but in general, it's really been a very balanced race in terms of pace. The qualifying pace here really decides how well you'll run at Monza.
Which is not something that I expected to happen. I figured things would be a little bit jumbled up because of that slipstream, but maybe that'll change when we get closer to the end. Don't need to go to it, but an update on John Gibson. Remember, he was involved in early issues. He just made a pass for 12th, past Robert Benson. He's still got a few more spots to go. In fact, a lot of time to go to get back to where he started this race. But here we go out of the Lesmos once again. Oh, Komatz and Sachs just changed positions. Mike has put himself into 5th. I'm wondering if this was a mistake through the De La Roja chicane. I believe it was, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a mistake there, and that allowed him to get up on by as we continue to watch this battle. A little bit of a poke to the inside there for Lacombe. Is he going to try to outbreak going down into Ascari? No, gonna stick back again. Oh, Joe, this is just a pressure cooker waiting for this to fire off. I've got a sneaking suspicion that once we get to the final 5 laps of this race, this is going to be explosive.
Absolutely. Well, especially considering, Rachel, we've already seen that these guys are fallible here. We've seen, I think, all of these 4 make at least one mistake, I want to say. So they are probably aware of that. If I know racing drivers, they've all made those mental notes of where they've had issues.
Yeah, I think they will be, and it's something they'll have to take into each race like that and to balance out. It's going to be a tricky one, but they are in a position where knowledge here is power.
Oh, look at this. It looks like speed is power for Lacombe, but he breaks a little bit earlier than Briggs. Was trying to challenge him around the outside coming into the first chicane. That's not going to do it. But now we're starting to see an overlap between them. Wonder, DJ, if maybe Mark will wait until he decides he's going to make the pit stop and then get the track position and dive in.
I mean, that could very well be it if you're able to go ahead. You're looking a little bit to the outside there of De La Roja. I think that may be the way to do it, because if you're ahead coming into the pit stop and you both pit on the same lap, you're more than likely to be able to do it there. And frankly, I don't think you want to necessarily try to jump one another here around a little bit, especially if you're in this leading pack. Now for Chad Dick, he may be able to get something to work if one of them stays out, and he's going to be able to keep up in that draft train, but running around here solo is not nearly as fast as running around with a partner.
Indeed, and tell you what, these four were pretty closely matched in terms of pace. So it makes sense that they're the ones that are stuck together. I see 0.2 of a second from first to fourth in qualifying in the end as they come out of Ascari. And another defense from Briggs, who does not like the look of Lacombe. And Lacombe is going to be much deeper on the brakes this time. He might be able to get ahead through Parabolica, but is this a strategic error? Is he going to find himself a sitting duck down the front stretch, Rachel, where they're going to accelerate down the way again?
Oh, he could be a huge sitting duck here. This will be a big opportunity. We're going to see him pull up and pull out. He'll go for that now, side by side here. And this will give him the advantage, of course, into that first chicane here. But he's going to have to really hold this tight if he wants to make the pass. On board here with Dick looking forwards. Oh, a bit of a scuffy doodle. Someone ran wide just ahead of them. Keeps it together, and he will hold that spot. Nice.
That was Freddie Lopez with a little off. He's a lap down and is about to be overtaken. So Briggs, once again, back to the lead. Almost makes me wonder, DJ, if he intentionally braked early on that inside line to let him through.
I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility, Joe. You are playing a little bit of chess here with one another, and I certainly think that could be the case there. We see that lap car getting off the way diligently there. It's definitely an advanced move, but I wouldn't put it past Briggs.
Komats is now pitted. He's been in and out. Looks like Lashway is pitting. Johan Nye, Oriadka, after his damage from earlier in the race. As Lopez in the background kicking up a little bit of the gravel. Going wide at the second Lesmo. Let's see if our leaders come in this time. We're down to 15 minutes to go, Rachel. Surely in the next 5 minutes, we should be seeing the pit window end.
We should, and I'm surprised we haven't seen a lot more people come in sooner. I think they're all going for the long shot here because of the length of the pit road and the massive lap time cost you're losing here on a big fast straight. So you're going to want to run this right to the end as much as possible.
Briggs takes them around the Parabolica. He's going to have to dive to the right-hand side if he wants to pit in, but the natural line takes you along there, and he is pitting in. So is Lacombe, so is Chad Dick, and so is Kessel. There's our top four, all in at the same time.
Wow, I'm a little bit surprised by that, Joe, that somebody didn't try to stretch that around. As we see Mike Sachs coming in. I think that's Chad Caseyon that's going to be able to snow Caseyon coming in as well. This looks like to be the absolute end of the fuel window.
From there on down, it's a huge gap to the next car. Reber's, I think, 30 seconds behind, so seems like a lot of drivers had issues. Should be seen about 13 seconds. Yeah, 13 seconds for Briggs. Lacombe, 11.8, and he's going to beat him out. He jumps him in the pit stops, and there's that saved fuel right there, Rachel.
It really is, and it will be a huge advantage to that, I think, in this case. The fuel is going to be what wins this race, whether it's on pit road, as more cars coming in now. Someone thought they were going to make a late decision, but they didn't quite.
Yeah, Chad Dick just went a little deep coming through the first chicane, and Kessel was not able to get by. But look at that. The gap between themselves and the two leaders is now 1.6 seconds. That might be exactly what those two have been looking for, DJ.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be out of effective draft range. The only problem there is we saw that weaving going down into De La Roggia from Thomas Briggs. He is in full attack mode here. He wants that lead back, and if they continue to fight, that could bring Chad Dick back into this equation.
I think we finally found a driver that is not going to pit on this lap. John Gibson, the only one to make it to lap 15. Otherwise, everybody has come in for fuel. But here we watch Thomas Briggs in the yellow and Mark Lacombe in the white and red, braking for Ascari. Briggs is going to brake just a little bit early. He's now had the lead taken away 3 times in this race. Certainly been a few lead changes out here today, so we've had it kept interesting for us, Rachel. But you talked about it being a chess game earlier. Well, now he's got to try and figure out how to corner the king.
Yeah, he really does, and you have to get that king into check as quickly as possible. Right now, he's not. He's at least one French gambit behind. I'm pretending that I know what chess is. I know a few words. But let's call it the Algerian plot. So that's another chess move, I'm pretty sure. It probably is. It doesn't make sense. But he's a couple of moves behind that point where he needs to be. He can set himself up, but it's going to be coming down into the last 5 minutes where it's going to matter. You can change lead at the last lap. As we see him go up the inside there. The 4 comes through on the 19. Gets secured in turn 1 again. And we'll see them swapping back and forth. It's literally going to be who leads in the last lap that will matter.
So every single pass that Briggs has done to get the lead back has been down into the first chicane. Honestly, if you had just carried on, I would have believed you because I didn't know chess terms either. But as we see, Lacombe and Briggs, they are now pretty much by themselves in the picture as Chad Dick and Kessel have fallen to about 2.5 seconds back. We head back to that battle for P3. This is on board with Scott Kessel's number 48 machine, and he runs a little wide through the first les mode there, DJ.
Yeah, that's not the preferred line that you want to be taking there. You want to get a little bit closer to the apex, but that's what I talked about. Carrying speed through those 2 sections, so very crucial to get that lap set up. And this is really a set of dueling couplets now, as the battle between Briggs and Lacombe is not allowed for Dick to close back in, as I think he's been having to run defensive to Scott Kessel behind him.
So it's going to just be these 2 pairs, most likely, all the way to the end of the race for about 5 or 6 more laps here. So going to be crossing with about 10 minutes to go, and it's just shy of 2 minutes to get around this place. And looking to see if... Nope, Gibson is still not in yet. Must have maybe had an early one that my timing and scoring doesn't have added to it. Lervold is also in. And here is a great run from Lacombe. The 19 is quickly approaching, and he's going to look to the inside. They're going to go 3 wide with the traffic. That was Lervold trying to stay out of the way, breaking deep into the corner. Can Lacombe give Briggs his own medicine? Yes, he can, Rachel.
He really can, and that was a great move there. But like I said, we're going to see this back and forth. This is going to be, now they've got this kind of gap between them, they're going to do this every lap. And this is where the setup for the final lap will be so important, is they are literally now on top of each other, and they'll be swapping back and forth. This is allowing them to break away. Look at this again, passing here. These two, this is like a road cycling race, okay? I've seen a big move there. It's a road cycling race. The whole pack will run around together for the majority of the race, and then suddenly a couple of bikes, a couple of riders, maybe teams, will start to go for the sprint, and they'll start to draft, and then they'll start to separate. And you stay with the whole group for the majority because it's more air efficient. Everyone benefits when you're in a big group. But when it comes down to the money, that's when you make a break for it, and you'll see these two swapping back and forth because it will make the race a decision between them, not third and fourth.
Indeed, and the 4 is back up to the front now, with Lacombe chasing as they come through the Ascari chicane. This time by only 8 minutes left on the clock. Can Lacombe manage to figure this out by the last lap, figure out exactly where he wants to be? And the other thing that I worry about here, DJ, is it's not a guarantee that one of these two will be the winners. They could wind up in a game of chicken where neither is willing to give way.
Yeah, they could indeed. Coming down on the last lap, we could see a little bit of sparring going down into that first chicane, and the 2 of them wiping out. And I think that's why Chad Dick is just continuing to run a good race behind him.
They come closer to one another. No attempt this time. Kessel, though, is taking a look down to the inside in the background, and Kessel is going to try and make the move. Can he get the car woed up in time? Just barely parks it at the second apex, and Dick can go nowhere.
He can't, unfortunately, and Briggs has got a great gap at the moment, but Kessel and Dick are really in a fantastic spot here. It's going to be a really good fight between these two, at least to decide third.
Down into the De La Roja chicane now. And they still remain too far apart. Oh, but look at this. Lacombe is showing himself in the mirrors. He does shake Briggs off the racing line. Briggs gets a decent exit, though. He'll retain that lead spot for the time being. But DJ, they're starting to get in each other's heads.
Yeah, they're starting to get a little bit feisty here, Joe. This is a little bit to continue that analogy Rachel was using earlier. This is getting to be a little bit like a super speedway race where all the gloves are starting to come off with the last 5 minutes. And here comes Lacombe down to the inside in Ascari.
Just not quite close enough. But he's still thinking about it. He's still doing all he can. And this time by 6 minutes to go. Might be a little bit more than that. Wonder if it's going to be close, too. This is a thirsty track. If somebody messes up the fuel, that could be a dire scenario because you can't exactly cruise around too much. There's not that many places to lift and coast. Onto the front stretch they come once again here, Rachel, and it looks like Lacombe will get another try.
I think he might. That other try will be really helpful now. 6 minutes remaining. He's going to have a few more tries, let's be honest, but it's exactly the same scene we've seen a few times now, and he won't fight him. It's inefficient to fight him. If he fights, then I'll just bring Kessel and Dick into this, and they don't want that. Right now, just letting him pass is going to bring them further away.
I think, as you said that, I was watching them break into the corner, and you could see how much closer that Kessel was. I think they have allowed them to catch up. And if they're side by side here, which it looks like they intend to be, Kessel and Dick will be part of this group once more. Down into the braking for the De La Rosa chicane. Neither wants to give up. Oh, but down to the inside. Almost managing to get by Lacombe. Kessel takes a dive. It doesn't work out. Briggs actually manages to pull away a bit, DJ. This could be crucial for the 4-car.
He's got a second lead. That is just on the limit of the draft range here as they come out of the second Lesmo, though. Let's keep an eye there. Oh, that's Mark Lacombe off. Lacombe off. Kessel able to continue on, and Dick spinning in the background.
Both of them making huge errors right at the end of this race. Kessel and Briggs are left to fight it, but it's 1.2 seconds. Briggs probably smiling ear to ear underneath that helmet as he knows this is his race to lose, Rachel.
Yes, he does, and it really is. And this is going to be a huge, huge boost for him and really bring things down to wire in the final race, of course. But that is a huge mistake for the last 4 minutes.
Unbelievable change of fortunes after being just connected at the hip all race long. These four are now nowhere near one another. Dick came out the worst of them. He is now 7.7 seconds back. He's in fourth place. That's just from the nearest car, too. He's about 11 behind the leader. Lacombe is down in third. He's about 2.3 back from Kessel. That'll be a lot to ask for to catch up by now. And then Kessel has still those 1.2 to 1.3 to catch up to the number 4. So as long as Briggs keeps cool in this situation, I think he's got this one pretty cleanly in his lap now, DJ.
I think he does too. The one thing that I will say that could come to his disadvantage is the fact that we have seen Scott Kessel be a little bit more aggressive into the braking zones. He's been able to catch a lot of time. There you can see right there into De La Rosa, really able to carry some momentum through the corner. Now that lost him a little bit of time there. We also have some lap traffic coming up. Could that potentially hurt Briggs? This may not be over yet.
Exactly. Lopez there, probably going to try and stay off to the side. Let's see if he does here on the run to Ascari. No, doesn't appear to be. He's going to hold station now. I don't think he's going to hold him up here unless he's extremely slow through the Ascari chicane. And no, he's not going to hold him up for now. No, I don't think. At first, it didn't look like it. Off the corner, he's moderately okay. So Briggs should hopefully be able to overtake as long as Lopez is aware of the lead car behind him. Yep, just keep station on the left-hand side. And now Briggs is through. Kessel's still 1.1 seconds back. 2 laps to go as they cross this time by. Just 2 more circulations, and Briggs has got himself a win, Rachel.
Yeah, he really does. This has been a huge boost for him. 1.1 seconds, that's draft range clear. Now, if Kessel and Lacombe could hook up here, they could really bring this fight to him. But this is where they have to go, okay, we got to work this out now. We got to push.
And Briggs has not won a race since round 2 back at Sebring. So this is going to be a homecoming of sorts for him. if he can hold on to it, but Kessel looks like he may have caught him a bit because of the traffic there. This time trying to go by Andrew McCune. We ride on board with Scott starting from 4th here today, looking not just at a potential podium, but maybe stealing a win. And I'm trying to see, I don't believe, no, we have not seen a win from Scott Kessel yet in Series 8.
We have not, Joe, and you hit the nail on the head. That was Andrew McCune coming down into the braking zone for turn 1. Little bit of a wide run there for Kessel, but that checked up Thomas Briggs, allowed him to get up behind and get caught by Scott Kessel. Kessel is crucially now within the draft window. We are going to come to 1 to go at the line. This could be go.
Down into Ascari. It's back up to those 0.6 of a second. And behind them, Mark Lacombe still at 2.3 behind. It is all slipped through the 19's fingers after a magnificent start to this race, where he managed to take advantage of the number 4's over-eagerness into the first chicane. All right, white flag is at the ready for Thomas Briggs in Barney's hands. But it's half a second between Thomas and Scott here, Rachel. If he gets a good exit, he could try something.
He really could, and it will have to be now or never, because the time is really running down. This is going to be, I think, our last lap.
Looks a little far behind to me, but this could draw him in for a move later, potentially. Ooh, big smoke from somebody in front of them. Not sure who that was locking him up, but causing a little bit of a screen coming down into the first little braking zone, and that actually worked out well for Briggs. It's back up to 0.8 of a second now. He's starting to drop Kessel. This is exactly what Thomas needs to do.
Yes, it is indeed. Now, he's got Benson, Iwata, and Lawrence about 5 seconds up the road from him. I don't anticipate that should run into too much problems, but we never know at a track like Monza. Gap up to a full second now as they come out of Della Roggia.
Out of the first of the Lesmos. It's 1.3 seconds, 1.4. Scott Kessel had a relatively quick stop, but I don't think he should be close to out of fuel. Maybe he is. He's dropping even farther behind. It's 1.8 seconds. I think there might be something wrong with the 48 car, because he does not look up to pace. It's up to 2 seconds now as Briggs is approaching lap traffic. Barring issues with that, he should be able to take this victory. And in fact, it looks like Benson is pulling off to the side to let him through. Kessel's down to 2.2 seconds behind. Lacombe is catching at a rate of knots. Is he going to see this second place fall by the wayside on the final lap of the race? And then Briggs as well is almost having to go by the wayside himself as he tries to lap Lawrence, but he's got enough of a gap that Thomas Briggs returns to the top step of the podium with a win at Monza.
And behind him, Kessel is going to be able to cross over there. The fuel not sputtering, so he is going to be able to take that second step.
Lacombe only 3rd today. Chad Dick off of the podium in 4th, a full 14 seconds behind the leader. Mike Sachs gets the 5th place over Komats, who seems to have had an issue as he is now 25 seconds behind and is missing the hood of his car. So looks like he's being caught by Casion, but it's too little too late in and amongst them. And this is our last battle remaining on the lead lap of the 12 cars that will finish all 23 laps here today. 22 laps, rather, I should say, as they cross the line. Wow. Well, that was definitely the sort of stuff that we tend to expect here from Monza as we watch coming off of Ascari. It's a battle with Oriadka here, but these two have already finished, I believe. Nope, it looks like they are still finishing. This is about a second away from one another. Lashway, who did not qualify, will wind up 10 positions up in the end. Not too shabby at a track where starting to the back could certainly be a bit of an issue. So as we now head on over to our race results here today. Of our 19 starters, it was Thomas Briggs who wound up taking the victory, and it was by a handy 2.2 seconds. It wasn't that far away this whole race. In fact, it was very little time that it was any distance bigger than a couple tenths. Scott Kessel was second behind him, looking close on fuel. We'll have to ask him if that was actually the case there on that last lap. Mark Lacombe was third, probably disappointed after he was in contention for the victory. It is Chad Dick who was P4. Mike Sachs was behind him, rounding out your top five. You've got Steve Komatz in sixth and Chad Casey on seventh. After that, Uriatka was P8, Lashway up 10 spots to ninth. Then Gibson rounds out your top 10, DJ.
In 11th, it was Johan Nye, followed by Stacey Owada, the last driver on the lead lap. Randy Lervold was 13th, followed by Jonathan Reber and Robert Benson. Jack Stevenson came home 16th, followed by Jeremy Lawrence, with Andrew McCune and Freddie Lopez both 2 laps down.
So there's your 19 starters here for this race, but the man who took the win was Thomas Briggs, who found himself, unfortunately, losing that lead at the first corner. Thomas, let's talk about that. It looked like you went in a little hot. Is that accurate, or what happened there?
Yeah, I kind of misjudged my braking point there. Yeah.
Talk about the rest of the race, though, because you and Mark just had that constant back and forth, and you had to retake the lead back at that first chicane multiple times. It looked like after that you didn't have nearly as many troubles trying to get it slowed up into there.
Yeah, that was fun. That was actually the first chance I got to fight with Mark. He did a great job. He's a very clean racer. I was able to keep my outside line because I knew he's cautious. He wasn't going to bomb it down the inside. But overall, I was just kind of saving my fuel and tires. I was going very light for most of the race until the last lap when I pounded it.
If I'm not mistaken, this is your first win since race 2 at Sebring, so a return to form and at a good time. You've now beaten both Chad and Lacombe in points this race, pulling you closer as we approach the last round at Zandvoort. What does that do to your approach at that very difficult circuit?
It doesn't change my approach at all. I always need to have the same mindset throughout a race, you know. I have to stay confident. Even if I was starting at the back, I would still be confident.
I like hearing that. Thanks for coming and talking to us. Is there anybody that helped make today's victory possible for you?
Yeah, I want to thank my Uncle Rocky, who's currently watching on the TV in my living room.
Great stuff. I hope you enjoyed the show, as that was Thomas Briggs in the number 4 taking the victory as DJ's caught up with a man who seemed to be coasting home a little bit, Scott Kessel.
Indeed, Scott. I guess we're going to start at the end first. It looked like you had a little bit close to be able to close down to Thomas and then backed off. Were you worried about fuel there at the end?
No, I just stopped hitting my apexes as well and decided to calm down a little bit. I really wanted the win, but I just couldn't take a crash at the last lap.
I get that. Well, talk me through earlier in the race then. I mean, you were spending a lot of time there behind Chad Dick, just kind of biding your time. Talk me through your mentality there and how that patience really paid out for you.
So Chad Dick is my Zone 1 teammate, so we were in a Discord channel together, kind of talking through what we were going to do. And the plan the whole time was that we knew that Mark Lacombe and Thomas Briggs were just going to fight each other the entire race. So we just sat there close enough that they knew we were there. And they fought a lot, and I ended up making one back. Unfortunately, I think Chad spun somewhere, so he's really an amazing driver. He was doing awesome. Did a good job of keeping everyone calm.
Well, that calmness clearly paid out for you. Do you think you're going to be able to carry that same calmness into an incredibly flowing circuit next time out in the form of Zandvoort?
I really hope so. I've done Zandvoort 3 times, so I think that's the track that I've done the most practice on. So I'm excited for it. Should be fun.
Well, I know we're looking forward to it as well. Is there anybody you would like to thank for the day?
Yeah, I want to thank my grandpa. He watches every one of the races, and I'm sure that he's watching this one. Of course, my parents. Yeah, and then my cat.
Well, all right. We always love a little bit of a shout out. Go ahead.
Also, Podium. Thank you so much for keeping this going. The streams are awesome. The kids at my school actually watch the streams, and it's awesome.
Well, that just puts a huge smile on my face, Scott. Thank you for that, and congratulations again on a second, my friend.
Thank you.
That was Scott Kessel, your second place finisher here today.
Looks like for our third interview, we've got Mark Lacombe, and Rachel has caught up with him.
I have indeed, Mark. A huge race for you today. Really powerful performance, but a mistake there towards the end. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. Yeah, this is probably the toughest race of the season so far, for sure. Yeah, it was. I was in a tough spot, behind Thomas, and then having to keep an eye out behind the rearview mirror, and I didn't see Chad and Scott really caught back up to us there and caught me off guard. So it made a mistake, cost me.
That will unfortunately happen, especially at a track like Monza. And obviously, this is going to have an impact in the championship standings. Are you thinking you can redeem yourself when we go to the final race?
Yeah, I think so. I'll have to look at the points, but I think we're all pretty close. I was really keeping an eye on Chad because he was in second, but now I think we'll all be pretty close, and we'll just have to come up with some strategy for that last race to manage points and position.
I'm sure you'll find a way. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, I got to thank my Matrix teammates this week. We practiced a lot. They helped me get faster, and I think that helped a lot in the race. So I wanted to thank them. Podium, you guys do a great job. PCA Sim Racing, Ford All Motorsports, and yeah, my wife, Debbie.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mark Lacombe, coming home today in third place.
And while that wraps up this first race of the evening, we have another one coming up with the sport class here in just a moment. We'll be back for Monza. Don't forget, though, before we leave, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing's social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing so you don't miss a moment in one of the most exciting racing series in sim racing. Stick around, there's more to come here on Podium Esports. Welcome back to Monza. We're here to watch the sport class now in the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 after what was a very fascinating run to the finish there in the challenge class. Now we up the ante a little bit and definitely up the attendance with 39 cars out here for this one. So it is going to be chock full, and maybe that track position, DJ, will really be more important this time.
Yeah, I certainly think it will, Joe, and especially what we were talking about last time with not wanting to get involved in a big first lap incident. That's going to be a little bit more of a concern here. 39 drivers out on the track, all trying to funnel down into that very narrow first corner, and I think you're going to see some pretty massive draft trains definitely starting to form. A lot of good battling up and down the field throughout this race, but track position is going to be a little bit more king.
See the helmet there of Boccieri sporting that of a dominant German and a dominant German mark as he comes down into the Ascari chicane. And let's see, I think he's on his second flying lap. So I'm going to try and pull up his lap times. Yeah, 51.0 on his first time. Melorano, in the meantime, has one of our favorite onboard cameras that we have yet seen. I've seen somebody do this in the Lotus 79s, but not with a Porsche yet. I love this, Rachel.
Oh yeah, that is a fantastically original view, I must say. I don't mind not seeing the screen at all. Like, that's just fantastic, and it's just the random rolling backdrop behind him just makes it fantastic. It's a Sunday drive whilst he's wagging the wheel like a race car. It's like the old movies or the B movies where they can't quite afford to do the driving scenes properly. So you just have like a regular just city backdrop going by, and it's shaking around as they're doing this ridiculous high-speed chase. They just sped up driving footage. It's golden. I love it.
I'm honestly getting Toonce's vibes out of this for me. Yeah. Meanwhile, Nick, that time by, good enough for 7th on his second lap. Well, and actually, that was a slow one. His first lap was his better. It's about 18 thousandths off of Solero, who definitely will want a good result on this one after coming in with a win last time out at Knock Hill. James Legault, though, is one of only 4 drivers who still have not set a time. I would definitely not want to be one of those that is going to be starting from the very back of this field. And the 27 car does still have 2 laps to go, but this is going to be tight, DJ, if he can get both in. This might be the money lap.
Yeah, it may have to be, Joe, and we watch here Legault. It looks like he's been clean since we've been watching him, so I don't see any problems thus far. It can be a little bit tricky. He's got to be careful here coming out of Ascari. You can pick up an off track on the exit of this corner. There he goes. Let's see if he's able to whoa it up. Big chunk of curb, but I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, so far from what we've witnessed, it seems like he's been within the boundaries. And it's 150 lap times for most of the drivers, 49s for the quickest. So as long as he crosses before that 150 mark, which it looks like he will, he should be okay to come around for a second one. That's, of course, not taking into account potential off tracks. But let's see if this one stayed on first so that he can at least get on the board. It's a 51.3. That'll at least get him out there, but it's only 30th, so he's still well down. And let's see how our leaders are doing. Franznik is not in the car right now, so he is not going to be able to take his third lap. Geiger goes faster, but it's not enough. Jake Geiger is about 0.13 of a second shy of Franznik here, Rachel.
Yeah, it's not going to be close enough right now as qualifying is coming into its last moments. It's a tight run here, and this is definitely faster lap times than we saw, of course, in Challenge. The gap here, though, is still very similar, although it's much broader. This is the difference in speed. We saw it was like top 4 or 5 were within second in Challenge. Here in Sport, that 1 second bracket goes all the way down to 14th. That is the difference here. This will be a much more, should we say this race will be much closer to what you thought the first one would be, a draft fest.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, barring, we have to make the caveat, an incident at turn 1. It's not anything against the driver's skills. It's just the track is known for it, and it'll be difficult to avoid unless they're all very patient. And if they manage it, man, my hat will be off to them. But the 18 of Andrew Hillman is trying to set a time. He's only going to get one go at it. He's just crossing the line now, and he's not going to have a time. He is going to have to grid at the very back. That is a nightmare scenario for him. And Legault is coming down to take his last lap. Again, 30th last time. DJ's already been pushed back to 31st. He's going to be hoping for something a little better.
And I think he may have had a little bit of an internet blip there, and that could have actually cost him the lap. But let's see what he does. He's going to cross over the line. Legault able to improve one position up into 30th.
Well, it's something. Got to take the positives out of that. And that is essentially going to be it. Yeah, nobody else can take a new time. So our starting grid has Franznik on the pole. Geiger will start from second and Solero in P3. Gregorato starts from fourth. It's Christopher Cook fifth and Adam Spence in sixth. And it's Melorano P7. Adamczyk will be eighth with the next row having Frick on the inside, Fricky on the inside and Barua on the outside. DJ?
Behind them, it's going to be Peter Yerza and Trev Starkey with Adam Gerling and David Krutzler behind them. Gregory Sampson will line up in 15th, followed by Will Mungia with Sebastiano Ballestieri and Will Kelly behind them. David Palmer will be 19th, followed by Christopher Costas in 20th.
21st will be David Kaufman with Gregory Gorel in 22nd, Chris Pippin 23rd, Robert Walton 24th, Randy Teague in 25th, Carl Boccieri in 26th with Joseph Evers, Ward Preston, Antonio De Silva and James Lejeau in 30th.
31st goes to Ankerberg Zona with Peter Kummer in 32nd. Tom Crane will start 33rd. After that, it's Bob Moore, P34. Mark Frost, 35th. The last one to set a time was Ryan McGee, 36. Vandenbrink, Neokli, and Hillman round out the fields as everybody has now gridded up. And it is time for us to go racing for 40 minutes. The engines start to rev, and the green flag is out. It's a very good start there from Gregorato. In fact, he might be thinking about the lead, but it's going to pinch in. He's got to be careful. He could get pushed out, and he does back out. In fact, that costs him dearly as he's going to lose all the way back to Christopher Cook, managing to go back by. Still, as they all slide into the first corner, will we make it out the other side? Look at it, DJ. There are some of them almost coming to a halt.
And that's exactly what can happen. A couple of cars around. I think that's Starkey I see off in the grass there. 2, 3 wide as they go down through Curve Grande.
Also, a bunch of cars made contact with one another. I think Legault in and amongst those. But for the lead, Solero up to the top spot. Now Franznik gets pushed back to second. Geiger still sitting in third. Gregorato at least gets back into fourth after his momentous start. And I see Chris Pippin off. That's in the De La Rocha chicane, Rachel. So we've had a few issues, but the first two chicanes at least were better than I thought they would be.
A little better, yeah, but not hugely. It's definitely got a little chaotic, but they're managing so far, I think.
Yes, let's see how Ascari does it for them, as Solero is going to have the advantage coming in first. All of them trying to be nice and tidy into this fast right. And off the chicane. I'm not seeing anybody going completely off, at least in the first half of the pack. But wow, it is a lot of cars out there. If you don't have somebody to fight with, you're probably suffering a spin or something, DJ.
Yeah, indeed, as it looks like a couple of drivers getting past there. Adam Gerling, David Krutzler, both off, coming down into the parabolic, it looks like. But I've got to give credit here to Solero. He did not have the best start, and he was able to recover there. But it looks like here comes Franznik trying to make a move to the outside.
Side by side, down into Retafilo to the inside. It's going to be Solero. Franznik breaks a little bit earlier, gives way. They get back into their single file. Somebody behind them is off. The end under braking, that looks like... Well, that's Fricky.
Yeah, Kim Fricky had an issue there. Unfortunate for him. This has been a very chaotic start to this round compared to the challenge class. I think the larger volume of cars is really playing with them.
Fricky's still trying to serve a slowdown penalty for having to cut the course, but I think Kim had some help getting sent into there because I saw them bouncing off of the Armco on the way in. We'll try and investigate it a little bit later. Looks like we've had a black flag for Sampson in the meantime for the number 91. Fricky winds up in 12th place after serving that slowdown penalty, but the top 5 look like they have calmed down at least momentarily here on lap 2. Solero leads Franznik, leads Geiger for your top 3, DJ.
Yeah, indeed they do as they work their way through Ascari right now. Everybody trying to get the best run that they can. Currently looks like the fastest couple of guys here up front continuing to lead. A little bit of a gap being pulled between Franznik and Solero, but I expect that to come down once they get out of Parabolica.
Ooh, Fricky had another problem out of Ascari and is just now getting the car going. So it's been a nightmare start for him. On to the main straight, Franznik with a fantastic run. And we're going to repeat last time out with Solero to the inside. He really wants that second win, but Franznik is going to try and deny him. Oh, he squeezes him all the way off. They're going to come together a second time, and they become passengers in their own cars as they come to a halt in the runoff. That is going to mean that Jake Geiger will inherit the lead, and he is probably loving this, Rachel.
Well, this is more drama-filled than I think we expected. We're going to replay here for you right now. Coming down into turn 1, the danger zone of Monza. This is the corner you don't want to mess with, but hey, let's mess with it. Coming into turn 1, and oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah, have fun, race control.
Yeah, hard to tell if the netcode kind of caused him to bobble into him or if he actually weaved to the side. That's going to be a hard one to try and determine.
That looked like a trying to cover him off for the, to cover the inside line there, trying to squeeze him down to back out, I think. Unfortunately, mistimed.
And that was only on lap 3, by the way, in a 40-minute race. That just threw away what could have been a great finish for both of them in that situation. That said, Solero's still in there in 4th, but we don't know who is going to get penalized or if anybody is going to get penalized amongst those two. And
Franznik!
Just coming off of Ascari. I saw it at the same time you did, DJ, and he takes a tow. He takes a tow for some reason. So that really will end the day for Franznik, or at least cause him to not be able to finish within the top 10 or so, and he's done. He is out. He is officially out of the race.
Oh, that's huge, Franznik. I'm so sorry to see that happen.
Yeah, you said it, Rachel. This one is very drama-filled compared to the last one. Down into the braking for the Rettifilo chicane. It is a completely different cast of characters for the podium. Geiger leads Gregorado, who is now into 2nd, and Christopher Cook finds himself in 3rd. Solero still not far behind as we ride on board with Palmer. Somebody breaking deep into there and a little bit of side-by-side battling in front of him. But it looks like coming off the turn, Mungia is going to be able to beat Kelly.
Yeah, going to be able to hold that out for now, and a little bit of that brake smoke coming down into turn 1. That's not going to be the first time we see that today. Jumping back up front, Geiger holding about a 0.3 of a second lead. I see Barua, I think, having an incident in the back. He's falling down the order.
Yeah, that was through De La Roja, and that was his own doing. Just brake too deep down into that chicane. He's going to be able to get going again without incident. As we continue to watch our top runners fly underneath the old oval and into the braking into Ascari, one of the few places with some elevation change around here before they have to weave their way back and forth. We hop on board with Spence. That is Solero directly in front of us. Told us that the yellow paint scheme is not Yellowbird inspired, but simply a coincidence. But looks like today he is going to have to fly his way back up to the top spot if he wants to make it back-to-back wins, Rachel.
Yeah, unfortunately, he will have to get flapping if he wants to do that. It's been a tricky one for the start of this, and it's really changed the dynamic of this race. We have a really tight grouping here for the top 10. In fact, times are all relatively close here, which is making this a much more spicy race.
Ooh, it's getting spicy for the lead yet again. Gregorado wants to try and get that clear air as Geiger breaks a little bit earlier, even though he has the inside. Swinging into the first apex. Gregorado has got it. This is, what, our 3rd, 4th different leader in this race, DJ?
Everybody swapping around here. This is exactly what you talk about when you talk about Monza, Joe. Lots of draft passes. Everybody coming at each other quickly.
Absolutely. And Geiger doesn't try and fight back this time. Wonder if these guys may be trying to play a little bit more cool than what we witnessed there in those first couple laps between Solero and Franznik. Into the Lesmos they go. This group goes down, it looks like, Rachel, I believe, to Yurtsa in 7th as we ride on board with Spence in 5th.
It does indeed, yes. And then we have a small gap behind them up a couple of seconds to 9th and 10th, where it goes up to 9 seconds. But on board with Spence here in 5th. This is super tight into this grouping. They're only separated by 1.5 seconds. Like, this is a under the umbrella situation.
It really is. So nobody can make a mistake. And we can report that the stewards have determined, as Gregorado is now the latest victim. He spins out of Ascari and is out of the hunt for the win amongst these drivers. Was this a solo incident? Yes, it was. Too much dirt, DJ, and off he goes.
And we talked about that a little bit in qualifying, where you can run a little bit wide, but now we've got a side-by-side battle for the lead. Christopher Cook trying to challenge on Jake Geiger. Here they come.
Our 5th different leader of the race now. Christopher Cook past Jake Geiger. If he can hold on to the spot down into the first turn. Oh, it's not guaranteed. Coming back at him. Jake is mighty on the brakes. Tries to turn back in. He's got the overlap, and it's going to be a drag race off the turn. Oh, no, they come together, and they take out another car as well. I think that was Spence. Unbelievable stuff. Solero returns to the lead.
What? What are we watching? Okay, that's... Oh, man. I feel so bad for all those drivers. That was a solo incident. He just caught too much curb with the back tire, and he went round. Just watch this view here. As here they come, and he's a little bit too squared off in the actual entry to the corner. Then he gets on the strips there, and that is unfortunate.
I don't know if Anthony believes in fate, but my goodness, that just... It's like the racing god said, no, you are supposed to be leading, and the 29 is once again back to the front with a 1.4 second lead over Adamczyk, who started this race in 8th position, by the way. Yurtsa up from 11th. So unbelievable gains for these drivers so far. If I can get the news out, I was trying to mention it earlier. The stewards have decided no action on the accident between Solero and Franznik. So that is a huge relief for the 29 now, DJ, because now he doesn't have the threat of a penalty hanging over his head.
Yeah, he'll just be able to drive his race here and be able to focus on trying to keep that gap over Patrick Adamczyk. And Adamczyk has been moving up the field even before all of that calamity that we saw earlier. He was on a good charge, so I would watch out for that 407 machine.
Well, if this race is teaching us anything, it's don't count yourself out, because Solero being back up at the front, I'm sure, is just as big of a surprise for him as it is for us as we check in on Evers, who is going to go by the slow Jake Geiger, who has a meatball flag. He has too much damage, so he is in pit lane having to take repairs. I guess Evers was not happy with some of the crud on his windscreen as he uses the wipers there briefly. And breaking down into the first chicane. That's Walton in front of him in the cream-colored car with a little bit of damage on the front of it, Rachel, and that's not going to help him in straight line speed.
Not at all, no. That will be a huge boon here at Monza, where straight line speed is everything, and having any damage will really hurt your race, but it also could be visual, because it does that sometimes with the curbs here. You can have almost what's called ghost damage, where it'll look like you've got damage because the spitter will have clipped a curb, but it won't actually affect you.
In a bizarre twist, and I know this is going to sound strange, but this honestly does make sense, and I'm with the stewards on this one. Instead, it was Cook who wound up getting the penalty because he spun and took out another car. The reason the other two weren't penalized is because they literally could not tell who was at fault on that one. So if you can't blame somebody, then nobody gets a penalty. So in this case, unfortunately, because of Cook having a very clear-cut case of losing control and harming another car, he has been sent to the lane for a drive-through, and that will further scupper his hopes. Meanwhile, as we watch Carl Boccieri, who has gotten himself up into 9th position, he's leading a whole train of cars. Ward Preston, Moulton, and then Evers, who we were watching earlier. DJ?
Yeah, indeed, the Pegasus Racing driver here taking a very narrow line there through Parabolica, but it works out to perfection there for him. I'm a little bit surprised by that. That's not normally how I would go, but Boccieri really stretching his legs over Ward Preston. That gap's about 0.5 of a second, and it doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
So they all stay in line, coming down to the braking for the first chicane once again. Boccieri ahead of Preston, ahead of Evers. Moore starting to catch up and bring some friends with him, too. You can just kind of catch them behind in the background. It's got Trip Starkey, Christopher Costas, and Avijit Barua. Avijit on a bit of a recovery drive right now. However, I will say that Bob Moore is up 22 places right now in the 772. That is unbelievable gains.
Mo's been playing the Daytona game really, really well. Yeah, that guy's moving. I'm impressed by that one. He was spending long hours on Daytona USA.
And for what it's worth, he did qualify. He qualified 34th and is up to 12th now. Meanwhile, Trip Starkey sitting in 12th just behind him, wants to take one of those away. Let's see if Trip can get him as they fly towards the Ascari chicane, just feeding it over to the right-hand side. It looks like Bob going to take the racing line, leaves the door open for Trip, who is not able to step through the door, DJ. He's going to stay behind for now.
Yeah, I think that's a good call there from Trip Starkey as we jump back up to the lead. I said Patrick Adamczyk has some speed, and indeed he does. Here he comes on Anthony Solero.
Adamczyk looking for his first win this series, and he's got the inside line, looking for the braking. Oh, but he starts to want to squeeze over. He leaves enough room for Solero, and thankfully we don't get our third case of the lead changing hands with a third wreck. But that was an aggressive move there, Rachel, and Adamczyk made good on it.
Yeah, he really did, and a fantastic move at that. So, got it all done the way it had to be done, just as carefully.
That allows Yurtsa to catch up. Melarano back in the number 100 is just kind of given watch. He's a little far behind at about 4.5 seconds. He'll need them to fight a lot if he wants to get involved, but it's not impossible based on what we've seen today. There he is right there in the number 100, showing us that perspective once again. And I think what does it for me is not just the fact that he has this VR set up with the car and everything. It's that he has a Duncan shirt on at the same time.
Oh, and Joe, I don't know if you can tell it, he's got a fake phone on top of the wheelbase there as well, as if that's his GPS. So I love the attention to detail.
Oh, this is amazing. This has to go down as one of the best onboards we've had. Oh no, and this is not the best race for the 20. He is off, and that is Trip Starkey, who we were just watching have a fantastic race. He was trying to put the pressure on Bob Moore, and he was the one that wound up succumbing to it. As we go to Will Kelly now, instead heading into the Parabolica around the outside of Mungia, and the 907 might be able to fend him off, Rachel, but it looks like Will is going to come back at him.
Yeah, I think he will. In fact, well, there you go. Will. He's got the opportunity here into turn one, and it'll be a good chance to run down here, keeping it fair, running their lines. This should be an easy pass.
It'll be the battle of the Wills under the brakes, and it looks like Will Kelly might have it just eking ahead, and he's gonna slice through, so Will Kelly gets the spot into 6th.
Yeah, that was a good move there, and you saw a little bit of rear brake lock up there from Mungia, and that was a very, very heads-up maneuver to not let the car slide away. I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing that gap continue to grow out there a little bit more, and no attack from the 907 coming down. Thinks about it a little bit into the second chicane, but not going to happen. More action in the back.
Wow, this is just non-stop here in this one. Gerling's going to come out ahead of Coomer there in the 333. Peter's another one that has really taken advantage of all that's been happening. He's up 16 spots since the start of this race. And we had another change between Mungia and Kelly as the 907 got right back by.
Yeah, he did. He got through clean there as on board here with Palmer looking up towards those guys ahead, Kelly and Mungia, Balastieri, Marangio running down towards Ascari here, and this is such a fast track. Even this gap here is just enough that he's outside the draft window.
From Palmer's perspective there, he's not out of it, but we look at the top three, and we haven't seen them swapping around lately, but will that change when one of them gets a run, or have they been giving up the runs? We haven't really watched them a whole lot. So let's see here, as it's 0.3 of a second. Solero's got actually a good slipstream, and he's closing in, and he definitely lifts. So I think they're playing the patience game here, DJ.
Yeah, I think they are too. They've got a 6-second advantage over Nick Melorano behind them. So why not just sit here, save a little bit of fuel, coast around, see what you can do, let everything play out, and, well, let the insanity bubble up in the last 5 minutes of the race.
Yeah, I think them doing this has allowed them to drop Nick, it looks like by about 6 seconds. So this looks to be the good call in and amongst them. I see Ward Preston in. Is this a pit stop? We're halfway through the race. Again, it flies by here at Monza just because we're having too much fun. And the bright yellow number 29 would rather have fun with nobody in front of his windscreen right now, Rachel.
Not sure that's a bright idea. With the amount of speed difference you'll get from the draft lap, I think it could be important to come out in traffic.
There's a tiny bit of damage on the 29. Don't know if he's suffering from it. Adam Chick in front of him. Let's see. Oh, and Adam Chick, what's happened? Why did he go down to the inside? He was guarding nothing. DJ, I'm flummoxed. That was a weird move.
Yeah, I've got no reasonable explanation there for that. The only thing I can potentially think of, Joe, is he doesn't want to lead right now. He wants to maybe give up that first place position, be able to save a little bit of fuel, but even then, I don't know. Oh, as we've got a car off, that's Avijit Barua.
Again, the second time that we've witnessed today for the 991 out of the second Lesmo. Doing the right thing. Great heads up there from Avijit to just kind of make sure that he's clear before returning to the circuit. Oh, but behind him, Ryan McGee just had a spin. We don't need to go to it. He's going to be able to also return back onto the racetrack as we watch Will Kelly chase down Will Mungia and into the first turn. Once again, we've seen this story before. Will it have a different finish? It looks like Kelly is going to be able to get it again. No, not quite. Feeds him out. They almost bang doors coming off of Redafilo, but great exit here, Rachel, by Kelly as he's ahead.
Fantastic, but they're still side by side nearly. Oh, it's so close here. We could see a pass in the second chicane. They're going to really have to hold this one together. There's going to be respectful racing up the inside. He's going to look for it. Into the braking zone they'll come, but he'll step back in line.
And I'm surprised that Palmer was not able to try and go by the pair of them as they just lost time racing wheel to wheel. 18 minutes left to go. I see a number of cars that have now been in and out of pit lane. So I wonder if they're looking for clear track, being stuck in some of these battles that we see like here on screen. This is currently for the 6th position. Nobody in front of them has stopped. In fact, highest driver to have stopped looks to be the 91 of Greg Sampson. He sits in 11th place currently. Well, DJ, this has been a bit wild. I'm not sure how the end of this race could top what we just witnessed in the first 20 minutes.
I'm not sure either, Joe, but if there's anything I have learned from covering the PCA, it is never count your chickens until they are hatched. This could get a lot more electric. I think with pit stops coming in, we're going to see some drivers maybe opting to do some alternate fuel strategy, maybe some drivers trying to save a little bit of fuel. Solero taking a little bit of a peek there down the main straightaway. This battle's certainly not over, and watch out for the 54 Peter Yerxa. He is going to be one to watch in the closing stages.
Mungia is listening to our thoughts on this strategy. He pitted in, and so did Palmer Rachel. So both of those drivers who were chasing Kelly are going to try and pit a little early.
It's an interesting call. I'm not sure whether or not it will be an advantageous situation for them, but it could help. But again, you're going to be faster on track in traffic than you are going into pit road. So I don't think you're going to have a real advantage just because you've got the fuel and maybe clean air. Clean air is not a huge thing here, so it's a tough one.
That's a fair point. But there was another little look from Solero that time, but decided not to try and attack on Adamczyk into De La Rosa. I think Yurtsa is probably the one that's sitting in the best position, though, here, DJ. He's been on the back of them this entire time and has been saving from a double toe. So the 54, I'm predicting will have a shorter stop.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've heard him lifting a little bit at different points, and he's done a fantastic job of keeping that gap within about 0.8 of a second and 0.5 of a second. It is absolutely like clockwork, the way he has just kept that there. He hasn't pushed too hard. He is just happy to be where he is, and that tells me that he is playing out his strategy here over the course of this race.
All right, into Parabolica. It could go one more lap like we saw last race, but let's see if they decide to. And Adamczyk looks like he will. So will Solero. So will Yurtsa. Okay. One more time around, maybe two, depending on if drivers are fuel saving. Let's take a look at Vandenbrink because this is another driver that has gained a ton of spots, but he has not qualified in this race, even still. From 37th to 13th. Now, I see almost a dozen drivers behind him that have already pitted, and now a couple more that are pitting now ahead of him. Ballestieri is in. Looks like Will Kelly is responding, and Boccieri is also pitting in. So will Vandenbrink follow suit, or will he stay out?
Tough to say. I think you'd have to come in as well with them. This would be the time to go. If they come in front of you, I'd probably dive for pit road too. I'd follow him in. Yeah, he's doing just that.
All right, so now we just wait essentially on the top four to stop. Almost everybody else is taking service. I think Mark Frost, De Silva, looks like Spence and Legault do need to stop, but they're well down the order, even though some of those were drivers who began this race very far up the order. These are leaders you see on screen. Once again, into the final chicane. Ballestieri, now your highest driver to have pitted. He's in the 5:16 and is about 40 seconds behind the leader. He won't be able to get that time back, I don't think, DJ. He was not involved with them. But let's watch and see what happens amongst these three. Oh, was there a slowdown for Yurtsa?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of a slowdown, and he got a little bit held up by Adam Spence. We also just heard him call over the radio that Yurtsa will be pitting this lap. So I've got to think here that means Adamczyk and Solero will be coming in. Adamczyk does, Solero does. Here come the pit stops.
It's the battle of the pit crews. Let's see who is going to be most efficient in and out. And Ballestieri will get back into what I believe will be fourth place now because of this. Fifth place, rather, actually, as we wait for Solero, Adamczyk, and Yurtsa to finish their stops. Melorano is also in there. Ooh, very fast stop for Solero. 11 seconds. Adamczyk was 11.6. Solero jumps him. You can see him just barely ahead. We saw this last time. Oh, but Adamczyk starts to lift Rachel. He does not want to fight him down to the braking, or does he? He's going to stick it in. No, and he spins it.
That was scuffed.
What Solero just did. Solero just spun. What is happening in this race?
They do realize they need to be facing forwards to win, right?
Yurtsa inherits the lead. That is just unbelievable stuff. That is, I believe, is that the third or fourth time we've had the leaders spin or wreck and lose the lead in this race.
I think it's at least the fifth time here, Joe. This is just ridiculous.
I don't think Solero is going to be able to come back from this one. He's 4.5 seconds off the lead. Yurtsa is away from Melarano as well. Peter now has an open goal. Can he manage to kick the ball in is the question. And this is from 11th on the grid. You talked about a Daytona-style race here, Rachel. It really is. This is just incredible how far down the order Peter came from to take a victory if he can just wrap this up.
Oh, absolutely. This is crazy. What? This is backwards day. Compared to the last race, it's a whole different ballgame we're experiencing here. And it's a real struggle to see how this has changed so dramatically, but those last two crashes were sympathetic spins. They were individual mistakes. Like, the up the inside was just like, okay, I'm going to go up the inside. Oh, I'm going to back out. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I've got a wheel on the gravel. Oh, that's the grandstands. And then all of a sudden, clean air. He's got it. All he has to do is keep pressing go, and he's backwards as well. It's like, were you watching in the mirror?
There's another sting in the tail. Anthony Solero has gotten a black flag for too many incidents. He is now in pit lane serving his drive-through. So he was looking at a third place if it weren't for that, but now he is in. And that promotes Balistieri up from 17th position to third place. Let's see, the only driver within the top 5, there's only 2 drivers who started within the top 5 that are within the top 10 right now. Gregorato from 4th to 7th, and Geiger from 2nd to 10th. This is one of the most topsy-turvy PCA races I've ever witnessed, DJ.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Joe. I can't take my eyes off the screen for a second because you don't know what's going to happen. This is just absolutely redonkulous.
Mungia as well, up 10 positions here, looking to make it 11. He's chasing on Palmer, lost that position in the pit stops. Behind them, Gregorato, who I just mentioned moments ago, is playing catch-up. He can actually get pretty close to where he began this race, Rachel. He's 3 down from where he started, and there's 2 right in front of him.
He could make up a couple of spots here. He's got a real opportunity, so we'll have to keep our eyes on this one to see where he does end up finishing in this, but this has been like reverse week.
A small correction on Solero's black flag. It was not for incidents. He had an unsafe re-entry. So that was his own doing completely there. And he has to watch that relative box before he comes back onto the track. Make sure he is clear. Otherwise, the stewards take a dim view of those situations. Adam Chick now in the 8th spot. Man, a first through a third, somewhere in there, probably easily within the cards, and his own little spin, trying to make an aggressive move, DJ, was a costly one. He's watching to see whether or not Gregorato can make this pass, and it looks like Enrico's going to go for it.
I think he is going to try to pull it off there. A little bit of brake smoke from both cars. There's a little bit of door banging on the outside.
Well, that's going to be both positions handed right over to Adam Chick, and he is back up into 6th spot. So once again, the chicanes just seem to gobble up cars who are too overeager to fight with one another and just tripping over each other on the dance floor. There's another one going deep down into the chicane once again. And I think, is that Boccieri in here in the spot? Yep, that was
I think it is. Yeah.
Grabbed it up.
Boccieri picked that one up. He's moved up into the spot here, so advantage for him, but he is a little bit further back, I think, than he would like to be in this race.
Adam Chick's not... oh, no, excuse me, it's the lap car. I thought he was passing another one. It's David Kaufman that he was going by. Although he does have Palmer in front of him. Boccieri, though, here now has Gerling right there in the number 17. Just seeing if he could hassle him out of a position in these final 8 minutes of the race. Watch out. Behind them is Costas. So that's another one that is not for position. I'm all discombobulated myself. And Gerling will have a very easy pass over Boccieri. Almost looked like he let him by. And Gregorato is also letting them through. Is Gregorato slow due to damage here?
Yeah, he just came over the radio, Joe, and said, pass on by, I am slow. So he does have some damage, looks like to the left front of that Porsche.
Yeah. Enrico has a black and orange flag. He is required to come in for repairs. Of course, you can only get repairs in the pits. And Mungia is in as well. Also has a black flag for an incident. I believe that was with Gregorado, was it not?
Yeah, that was earlier on in the race, so unfortunately he will have to come and serve that one. It's been a busy day for the stewards.
So, meanwhile, down through the Curva Grande. Whoa, a late move, looking down to the inside. Adam Chick on Palmer. Palmer's not going to get scared off the racing line. He holds station in a top 5 up from 19th position here today, DJ. How well can he play defense?
That's going to be the question here, and we've seen that speed out of Adam Chick, and really with the one little error that he made under slow speed going into turn 1, he has been absolutely quick, absolutely on it, so we'll have to see if he's going to be able to get his way up in and claim a top 5.
Well, I don't know who is placing bets on who out here today, but anybody that put money on the 54 is about to get a big payout. Because it's down to, I believe, looks like 4 laps to go this time by across the line. And the gap has been enlarging. Melorano is up to 5.4 behind Yurtsa. And it seems like the lap traffic has actually been pretty good for Peter up to this stage. He just has to manage himself. He has to manage his own mind from here.
Should be an easy run for Peter Yurtsa here. The gap is huge. So first time I thought I'd see a 5-second gap for the lead at Monza.
Watching from Solero, also had a pass between Adam Chick and Palmer. Didn't really fight it too hard, so don't need a replay on that. Oh, Balistieri just went by Melorano. Balistieri is now up into P2. Nick, unfortunately, not having the speed here late in the race, despite finding the second place just handed to him. Let's take a look at this one.
I think this was just a little bit of a bad run out of the corner there. Yeah, just coming out of the first corner, and there you can see Balistieri recognized it and pounced, Joe.
Well, the 100 car is still on the podium here. Just unfortunately won't be able to maybe get a second unless he can get a mistake out of that 5:16. 15 positions up for Sebastiano here, up from the 17th starting spot on the grid. We watch with Nick looking up ahead. This Sunday drive is going to pay off handsomely for the man with the fancy onboard camera. And yeah, you can see he's just losing inch by inch coming out of these chicanes here, DJ. It looks like he doesn't have the pace for Sebastian.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't quite have the drive out of the corner. May have used up his stuff a little bit earlier in the race. We heard a couple of drivers in the previous session talking about how that they were trying to manage their tires a little bit. You see that narrower line that he took out of Parabolica, a little bit of slip coming out of that car.
Trying to see if he can fight back now. Seb does not cover off the inside. He allows Nick to take the desired line, but then it's a game of who is the latest under the brakes. Look at this great view from above. And the answer to the question is going to be Nick, Rachel.
It just had a better run to that, so moved that car up to second places. This has been such a tumultuous event. It was great seeing this action late here in the race, and Duncan Machine is flying.
So let's see if he can make it a slam dunk second place, or is he going to have to barely eke through? As Sebastiano's still right on him. These two could be changing back and forth all the way down to the finish. It might require a bit of thinking to figure out where you want to position that Porsche come the end of this race.
Whoa!
Or a mistake like that, DJ from Seb, could allow Nick to pull away.
Yeah, and that was just overcooking it a little bit. He got onto the throttle a little bit too early, coming through the first Lesmo. That caused the car to understeer out to the outside, picked up a little bit of the grass. Good job to be able to catch it, but he has lost about 2/10 up to that 100.
I think it's a full 2 seconds, actually, it looks like. Yeah, he is way back. So Balistieri, unfortunately, shooting his own foot. Sampson in 14th, up one spot. Normally that'd be at least something to bring you some happiness, but here today, that's going to be pocket change for most of these drivers. Ahead of him, Boccieri, for example, up 13. And then we look at Joseph Evers here, up 20 positions from 27th in that number 830 for a nice top 10.
Yeah, it's been incredibly upside down, and these guys have made some huge moves. Evers, 20 spots, that's massive. 14 for Kelly, you just said that one. Ballestieri as well, 14. These are insane numbers, but these are only the kind of numbers you'll see at Monza. Just like Daytona, where you'll see the field shaken up this much. The same thing does happen here. It's normally drafting, yeah, but it could also happen like this. It seems like an easy track, but it will bite you.
I think what amazes me most is we still have 29 of the 38 starters on the lead lap. I would have thought with all the problems that were out there, we'd see a bunch of drivers get lapped, having to take extra stops and whatnot. Side-by-side action here between Sampson and Boccieri once again to try and sort out unlucky number 13 as they fly towards the first chicane. The inside to Boccieri, but he doesn't have a nose ahead. He's going to have to be mighty on the binders, and he's very shallow. That's not going to help. He'll give away the spot. DJ Sampson retains it.
Yes, he will indeed. Little bit slow through the second part of the chicane. That may offer up a little bit of a fight back, but I don't think it's going to be nearly close enough here going through Curva Grande.
Looks like he's going to drop off, and Solero is not done with this race. This is for 16th, but it won't work out for him in the end. It looks like Krutzler managed to get by, so the 74 will retain the spot as up at the front of the fields. It is now 7 seconds between Yurtza and Melorano. White flag is being waved for the 54. Just one more circulation for the Skull Candy car here, Rachel, and a shock win is awaiting him.
It is a shock win indeed, and from 11th on the grid in PCA. You don't see that. We have the guys who fly away with these leads and who always qualify at the front. Then we have this. This has got to be one of the happiest guys in the field if he finishes his lap.
Well, today it seemed like it's a case of keep out of trouble, keep your nose clean, manage to keep it on the black stuff, and eventually you'll get to keep the checkered flag. As Peter just has a few more corners to go for this one. Melorano not catching. Ballestieri cut it down to 1.2 behind Nick, but not sure if he'll be able to get that second place. Ooh, a lot of smoke there into De La Rogia. That appears to be Tom Crane off the course.
Yeah, there was a big kerfluffle up there for him. He just completely missed the braking zone, smoked up the tires, caught a little bit of damage courtesy of those big sleeping policemen, but thankfully Peter Yurtza able to avoid it.
Okay, so Peter now facing a single chicane and then the braking down into Parabolica. It's been one of the craziest races we have seen in some time. But honestly, I'd say in a bit of a good way. It wasn't one that was super sloppy. It just involved a lot of twists and turns, drivers being over aggressive, drivers making mistakes. But Peter is the one that can say, I did not make the mistakes today. The 54 down into Parabolica, the temple of speed for Peter is the place to worship at. He has found himself a victory from the racing gods here at Monza in Italy. Behind him, Melorano is going to barely get home in second as Seb brought it up to within half a second, but had to settle for third. How about Will Kelly, though? Up 14 spots to grab fourth. Adam Schick a little ways back there, DJ, to finish within the top five, but was in contention for the win for a good chunk of this one. I think we got a battle between 10th and 11th as well.
Yeah, this is Bob Moore ahead of Ward Preston going down into Parabolica. Both drivers really pushing the cars down there, trying to see what they can do. You can see already Bob Moore trying to cover off that inside a little bit, break the draft. I don't think he's going to have too much to worry about. He is going to be able to claim 10th place.
Most of the other battles starting to fizzle out. I see Pippin and Krutzler close, McGee and Fricke as well. And on screen here, this is Pippin in the leading car with the black and purple Behind with the red nose, that is Crutchler. Down into the Ascari chicane. This is looking like a pretty good exit. Oh, too good of an exit. Crutchler's going to spin it on the last lap. And will he be able to make it back there in time? Nope. Looks like McGee and Fricky's battle is now going to carry on past him and get a bonus position here, Rachel.
I certainly will do, which will be a benefit for him, of course, but... Oh, I'm still catching my breath after this race.
Yeah, that was certainly something. And I hope this one gets remembered. Ooh, is this another battle? It is. Legault and Frost on the very last lap of the race. Looks like Legault is going to be able to get 25th over Frost, who will be the last one on the lead lap. Oh, a lot to unpack here. But first thing that we unpack, as usual, is the results. And that is Peter Yurtsa with the win from 11th on the grid, as Melorano was second and Balistieri was P3 from 17th, 18th to 4th as well for Will Kelly back there. Both of them up 14 spots. Patrick Adamczyk got himself a top 5. It was David Palmer going from 19th to 6th. Joseph Evers, 20-spot game from 27th to finish 7th. And Jake Geiger going from the front row back to 8th in the end. It was Robert Walton who finished 9th and Bob Moore from 34th position up to 10th in the end. DJ?
In 11th of 17, it was Ward Preston, followed by Adam Gerling with Gregory Sampson and Carl Boccieri behind them. Randy Teague was able to come home in 15th, followed by Anthony Solero down 13 after that disappointing run for him today. Gregory Gorell was 17th, followed by Will Mungia with Adam Spence and Chris Pippin rounding out your top 20.
21st tonight was Anke Bergeson with 22nd, Ryan McGee, Kim Frigge in 23rd, Antonio De Silva in 24th, James Lejeune 25th with Mark A. Frost last currently lap in 26th. Behind them, one lap down, it is David Krutzler in 27th with Trip Starkey, Tom Crane, and 30th, Avjit Brewer.
31st was Christopher Cook, Andrew Hillman 32nd, and Costas was 33rd. Last one lap down was Kaufman, and 34th, Peter Kummer. P35, and then from there, it's DNFs with Vandenbrink, Gregorato, Franznik, and Neocli, which is not bad out of a 39-car field. And the top of those 39 cars was Peter Yurtsa in his number 54, starting from 11th on the grid. I got to guess that, Peter, when you gridded up in 11th, I can't imagine you expected to be going for a win today.
Yeah, not really. This was a typical tortoise and hare kind of thing.
It certainly seemed like that. I mean, talk to us about your emotions as that started to unfold in front of you and eventually, after the pit stops, left you in the lead. I mean, what was your brain like as one by one, you're like, oh, I'm top 5. Oh, I'm podium. Oh, I'm leading.
That's pretty much how it went. I mean, the leaders were all taking everybody out, themselves out. And actually, when I came out of the pit stop, I was still in third. But in the going into the chicane, I think it was Patrick and Tony running 1 and 2, and they got into each other, and I got around them.
So how nervous were you after that? Did you feel a little bit of pressure, like I can't screw this up, I got to bring the win home after here, or are you completely cool?
No, I had a couple of laps there where I was pretty shaky, and I'd used up a lot of my stuff already, just trying to keep up with those guys. So the tires were going away, and I just started backing up my braking points and said, I just got to bring this thing home.
Well, other than a lot of cars having accidents, who do you have to thank for today's win?
Well, those are the big ones. But I just like to thank everybody really that puts this thing together. It's a blast.
It is a blast for us as well. That was Peter Yurtsa, your winner here in race number 7, with DJ talking to Nick Melorano, who certainly kept us smiling out there with his rig.
Yeah, first things first, before we get to the race, Nick, you got to talk me through the thought process on this brilliant setup, my friend.
Oh, this actually just came together about 2 hours before the race. I've always wanted to do the virtual camera, but my room is just so small. So I'm actually a video producer. So I had green screen and my camera set up and the rig to put it in. And
well, I love it. Now, on to the race itself. Obviously, up 5 on the day. How did you manage to avoid all of the carnage around you?
I think I was just lucky to be where I was. I definitely didn't have the pace on some of these guys, and I think the accidents that did happened far enough ahead of me that I was able to see them slow down and sort of just keep an even head without losing too much time.
Well, I do have to ask you one other question. What's your go-to order at Dunkin'?
It's a medium iced coffee, caramel swirl, cream only. And if anyone wants to send me one my way, just hit me up.
All right, there you have it, Nick Millerano. There it is. You have the order. Send it to this man who is repping Dunkin' Donuts. Nick, anybody you want to thank today for the win? The second, sorry.
Yeah. Almost a win, just 5 or 6 seconds. Yeah, I think I'll thank you guys, of course, at PCA for putting this on. My wife, who, because my room's so small, I had to keep the door open, so she's heard all the back and forth. Nick Facciolo was spotting me throughout the race, so shout out to him. And then I heard there was a cat shout out, so I'll shout out my dogs, Annie and Comet, who are scared of the rig and everything sim racing, but they definitely gave me the emotional support to keep an even keel.
Well, that may be a first. Normally, we're used to hearing stories about dogs coming in and trying to mess up the rig. But Nick, thank you and congratulations on a second.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Nick Millerano, your second place finisher here today. And Rachel, I think you've caught up with third place.
I have indeed. Yeah, Sebastiano Ballestieri, a fantastic drive today and a very tumultuous race. You're up 14 spots. Talk me through how that happened.
I'm not sure how that happened. Again, I got lucky. I had a pretty bad qualifying, but once the race started, I managed to make it through turn 1, which was my biggest concern. It's so hard to get all those cars through it without any incidents, and I managed to make it through without any incidents, and I put my head down, and I was doing consistent laps, and not sure what happened in front of me after that. I found myself on the podium. There must have been a lot of incidents.
It was the Monza apocalypse. Yeah, kind of busy. It's a bit like New York traffic. So something that maybe you're good at dodging. I don't know. It's definitely one of those tracks that's a very Marmite circuit. Is this one you're familiar with or you like?
No, I'm very unfamiliar with this track. This is the first time I've ever seen it, that I ever raced it. I just watched it on TV growing up, watching the F1 racing on it. So happy to be able to do well on it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Anybody like to give a shout out to you before we let you go?
Well, big shout out to you guys for a great job every week, doing a fantastic job. To all my the sponsors and my good friend Carl Bacchieri that I practice with every week, and I'm not sure what happened to him. And big thanks to my family for putting up with me, for spending so many hours on this simulator. So great fun. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Sebastiano Ballestieri, coming home today in third.
And that's going to wrap us up today. Before we go, another mention of our social media here at PCA. The social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. We'll see you next time at Monza once again, but it'll be 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday, May 6th, live here on Podium Esports for the club and pro classes. A big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Rachel, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.